Today's episode is sponsored by Jane, a clinic management software and EMR. The Jane team knows that when your workday is spent providing care to your patients or clients, it can feel like there aren't enough hours in the day for the rest of your admin tasks. This can mean that scheduling appointments becomes after-hours tasks, turning what should be restful evenings into extra long work days. That's why Jane has designed user-friendly online booking, so you can give your patients the freedom to book their appointments at their own convenience, whether that's after hours or on weekends. Patients can also manage their appointments, fill out intake forms, and enable SMS and email reminders from their secure online portal, which saves you from having to manually do it. To see how Jane can help you reclaim your evenings and weekends, head to jane.app to book a personalized demo. Or if you're ready to get started, you can use the code WELLNESS1MO at the time of sign up for a 1-month grace period applied to your new account. Hi there, and welcome to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. I'm Kendall Hagensen.
And I'm Anna Rudel. We're thrilled to have you join us on this journey of creating innovative, patient-centered wellness centers.
As experienced health and wellness providers, we've seen firsthand the challenges of delivering comprehensive, holistic care to our patients.
That's why we created this podcast, to share the knowledge, strategies, and insights we've gained from our own experiences and from connecting with experts in the field.
Each episode, we'll dive into a different aspect of building and growing a successful wellness center, from developing a strong multidisciplinary team to implementing cutting-edge technologies and treatment approaches.
We'll also share practical tips, resources, and real-world examples to help you overcome common obstacles and streamline your processes.
Our goal is to empower you with the tools and confidence you need to create a thriving wellness center that truly makes a difference in your patients' lives.
So whether you're just starting out or looking to take your existing practice to the next level, you're in the right place.
Get ready to learn, grow, and be inspired. Let's create something amazing together.
Welcome to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. Today, Anna and I will be having a chat about what's been coming up for us recently as business owners and leaders. And I think Anna and I will be doing more and more episodes of the two of us chatting about things we're experiencing and passionate about. So we are excited. Nice to see you, Anna.
Nice to see you, Kendall. Yeah, it's been a week, hasn't it? Back to school.
Yes.
Well, back to school, not for you. You must have already done that.
Yes, 2 weeks ago, our kids went back. They made it to the bus. They have an electric school bus on the morning route, which is so cool and so quiet. And yeah, we all got very excited about the electric school bus.
Yeah, that's really fancy. And of course, with back to school comes added responsibilities for parents, and clinics start filling back up again, don't they?
Oh, yes. Thank goodness, right?
Thank goodness. Summer's over. Now it's time to take care of all the mamas and the parents out there.
Well, that's kind of the marketing efforts, right? Is, hey, come take care of yourself after the kiddos get back to school.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Kendall.
Yeah.
I've got questions
What's been coming
for you.
Up? Okay. What's coming up for you right now as a business owner and leader? What are you struggling with?
Well, it's not so much struggling as curiosity around, I feel that as a business owner and as a clinic owner, I've tried my hardest to create a very supportive environment for my employees. And I feel as though I go above and beyond to create an understanding and a trust and a support system for them as they grow in their jobs as practitioners. And what I've been chewing on this week is, at what point is that boundary put in place? Are we creating entitlement?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love this topic, and I think our listeners will also love this topic because I'm willing to bet that most people who have employees and lead teams have experienced this dynamic in one way or another.
Hmm.
I agree with you. I feel like, from day one, half the reason for me of creating the wellness center originally was so that providers could have a better work experience, because I
Hmm.
come from the world of mental health counseling, and this is probably similar for acupuncture, where a lot of providers aren't treated well in the workplace, and they are overworked and they are underpaid. And I think there's so many things at play here. And the first thing I remind myself is that I'm not that powerful, that I'm not that important, that I could actually create someone feeling entitled in the workplace all on my own, right? That
That's a good point.
they have, everyone has their past experiences coming to the workplace, and then there's so many relationships involved. So I think about, the changes in graduate programs over the years, and what's being taught. And I think, at least in our field of mental health, what I've seen kind of shift is this idea that students are being taught to almost put up, like, really um, demand everything from their employer,
Hmm.
because there has been such poor treatment in the history of our field, that they're almost taught, like, okay, put up your armor as you're coming out of school, and your employer is just going to completely screw you over. So you need to
Yeah.
be ready for that.
Hmm.
And you need to come at them with everything you got.
Yeah.
So I see that happening. Do you see that happening in acupuncture?
Definitely. When I started employing acupuncturists as employees and not contractors, there weren't that many of us doing it. I mean, I can count them on one hand. And so we, as practice owners, were learning on the job. How do we do this? How do we lead? How do we be the boss? And I think really the concept of a leadership team or leadership in wellness practices is actually relatively new. We were just trying to muddle along as employer and employees. Um, Bearing in mind, we were also trying to make sure that we were upholding state regulations and making sure we were not trying to do anything illegal, and make sure that everybody
Sure.
had a fair income and all these things that are rarely taken on board. But definitely seeing a shift in acupuncturists as more and more opportunities are out there.
Yeah. And I think, when we think about, okay, if we create such a supportive environment, can it backfire? Can it create
Hmm.
this sense of entitlement, or, expectations from employees that are unreasonable, or that don't feel good to you as the employer? So, which you and I have both done from day one, that we really care about our team members, and we've tried to create environments over the years that people feel safe working in, and can foster real community and relationships. And you have done that. I know you, and I know your practice, and you've absolutely done that. And what comes with that is, when people have experienced their employers or bosses in the past not be that way. So,
Mm,
every single person that joins our team at some point in their employment here, they typically say something like, this is the first time I've worked in an environment like this.
hmm.
And this is the first boss that I've had that, actually really does care about my future goals as a person and as a clinician. And those are such beautiful things. So then they see, okay, well, this environment is kind and flexible and all positive, right? But then there's that threshold and certain personalities who might join the team that for them, having that type of structure, they actually need even clearer boundaries in place or more structure. And you are the queen of systems. Like you have every system in place in your clinic and you have boundaries of like, this is what's okay and this is what's not okay. And we have policies and procedures and protocols for everything. The hard part is sticking to the policy because we're in a human business and we have real relationships because we've fostered this really positive community in our workplaces. We actually have real relationships with our team members. And it's then difficult when someone comes to us and has, shares their personal story or they want to go beyond the boundary or they want to have an exception to the rule. And if you do that once, then it snowballs. But if your team sees you as, this very kind, flexible person, and then you say no to them, that can bring out, old patterns of trauma threads. It can bring out issues from people growing up in their family of did they have a strong boundary from their parent or parents? And, it cannot feel good to them to be told no or that they can't go over the boundary. I'm curious your experience of this.
Well, I think it's twofold, isn't it? I totally see what you're saying about boundaries and holding boundaries. And I think that's something that I struggle with and will always struggle with, but it's definitely easier over time. I think the more challenging thing to deal with is the sense of being taken advantage of when you feel like you're putting out so much to ensure that your employees are taken care of, that you are fair, that you're not taking advantage of anyone, and that you're hearing their need for a change in schedule or the exception to the rule. And yet, on a personal level, you just feel like you're being taken advantage of. How do you get over that?
Yeah,
Then there's resentment. And then, then there's potential consequences on both sides at that point.
for sure. I think for me over the years, it's always been about knowing why I'm putting something in place. So why do we have this policy? And in the early years, of course, we all just learning as we go and didn't have that policy in place or didn't know, I always knew why I was doing something, but maybe it wasn't written down at that point.
Right.
So there is a point where it is really important to write those things down and have it be consistent where, we're talking about things like people wanting to change their patient schedule all the time, right? And that you would think as a practitioner who, you've been successful as a solo provider and then you create this group practice or you create this multidisciplinary center and you think, well, this is how I practice. I don't change my schedule all the time because I wouldn't have any patients. It doesn't create consistency and patients need consistency. But not everyone has that skill set. So you wouldn't think, well, I need to write this down that this is how we do this here. And I actually need to train people and tell them that this is how we do this here. So backing up and doing those steps, if you haven't done those yet, and I know you have, but for our listeners, if you haven't done those yet, that's the starting place so that you have something to go back to say, no, I've had so many team members over the years come to me and say, well, I didn't know that. Or
Yes, that's very common, isn't it?
you never said that. Well, I
Did you
did
read the
say it.
manual?
I said it in the manual and I said it in person. But the issue is when we're onboarding a new person, there's so much information and we can't really expect people to retain every single little thing. So those really important pieces about like, how do you do your paid time off? How, how flexible are we with taking time off? Do we allow schedule changes? Do we, what do we expect? Like, one big thing for us at our clinic is we really teach people about patient retention and why this is important, and giving people a full scope of care. But also, like, what are those logistical steps to schedule someone out to be coming in consistently? And,
Mhm.
so when someone comes to me and they say, well, I didn't know that. No, because we went over it multiple times. And if, after 3 months or 6 months, they're not doing it, then you have something in front of you to say, we have just gone over this over and over. Where's the barrier here? And why do you think you don't need to do it? Right.
Right.
I think what I've experienced over the pandemic definitely shifted how employees approach the workplace. And I think everyone would agree with that. And part of that comes from people reevaluating their life of how do they want to spend their time. And, oh, I only want to be in an environment that values me. So then again, they come in with their armor up of like, well, I should make a full-time salary, and I should be able to come here one day a week and do whatever I want. And why is that a problem?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So there's also a piece, and now we're, 2024, coming towards the end of 2024, where I feel like this is going to start balancing out a little bit, where employers, and I certainly have been an employer where, we definitely got caught up in it for a minute of, well, we have to try to make everyone happy, or else we're not going to have team members. And then it was like, wait a second, we need to stick to our values, and we have these things in place for a reason, and it's to serve our patient community.
Mhm.
And so I've been more on the side of, well, even if it takes us longer to hire, we're going to hire people who actually feel so excited and honored to be on this team, and
Mhm.
not people who feel like they're doing us a favor by being on our
Mhm.
team.
Mhm. And what you're suggesting is for our listeners to go back and make sure that everything is documented. But what I'm hearing is also potentially down to, do we allow schedule changes, for example? Yes, we do allow them, and this is what you need to do in order to achieve that or to request that. But even
Yeah.
thinking it down to the minutia of, you're allowed one schedule change every quarter or something like that. Are you even down to that number, lest that boundary be pushed?
Yeah, exactly. Because even though that's not really my personal style, and that's not what
Right.
I would need as an employee. Like, if someone just said, we don't allow frequent schedule changes, I'd be like, cool. And then I just wouldn't change my schedule around. But
Hmm.
some people really need exactly what to follow, right?
Right.
So they need to know, well, what is the appropriate amount?
Hmm.
These companies that have unlimited time off, right? What does that mean? And is there fine print in that? I
Hmm.
was talking to a family member, and they're saying, their company that they work for went to unlimited time off. And then they realized there was, in the fine print, it basically said, but don't go over 4 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it was. And it's like, well, that's not really unlimited. And you're going to
Hmm.
have a lot of upset people unless this is really clear.
Yeah, I agree, and that was a point well taken there, Kendall. I can't help my European tendencies. We need more
I know.
time off.
And we need to be more European over here in the States. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. But I think the point being that it is important to think about how different personalities and different ways of learning, and how can we kind of hit all the points with our job posting and interview and onboarding process. We're trying to give the best chance we can for people to be successful. And that's one thing, right? That's on us to create and be very intentional about. And then over on the other side is it's some people are just not going to be the right fit. And like I said earlier, if someone has an attitude that they're not really committed and, oh, they're doing us a favor because we really needed another massage therapist or something, that energy can be felt all around. And you asked me earlier, like, how do I deal with people crossing the boundary, or how did I deal with, or feeling like taken advantage of?
Mm-hmm.
And I think from the beginning, it's been about always coming back to what is my own capacity, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a point where if you're letting it go on and on and on, and I'm allowing people to cross boundaries and be just disrespectful, then that's on me because I'm
Mm.
part of that. I'm allowing
Yeah.
that to go forward. And so that's a choice. If people are just blatantly disrespectful, not upholding the values of our company, and that's why it's so important to have clarity on those top values for your company, and for anyone who works there has to have those values, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
for us, it's number one, passionate about life, passionate about collaborative healthcare, because that's what we
Absolutely.
do here.
Yeah.
That's what we do here. And if you're not excited about life and learning, like you're going to have a hard time on our team,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's interesting to consider that as you're speaking, it sort of enlightened me or reminded me of making sure that we take time out to reflect on where we are, where the point of homeostasis is, where is that balance with each of our relationships, our work relationships, right? And if one of those relationships feels completely out of whack, there isn't any give and take, it's all give. That is the point at which, for me,
Yeah.
resentment starts to build. And
Yes,
either that energy imbalance is addressed or the relationship has to end.
exactly. If you're working harder than the employee, it's just not going to work. Right. And it's the same as a practitioner. We've always been taught. And I like to say, like, if you're trying to figure out how to lead a team as a healthcare provider, think about what you've learned as a practitioner of how you treat your clients and how you work with your clients. If you're having to work way harder than your client for the betterment of their care, and I don't know how you feel about this in acupuncture, but I know our acupuncturists, send people home with, okay, you need to do these stretches, or you need to use heat, or you need to use, or whatever it is. If people don't do it, it's harder for them to get better. In mental health counseling, it's a big deal to be working harder than your client. If your client's not going to show up and be participating and want to be part of that process, it's just not going to work. And so
Mm.
I always apply that with employees where, as long as we're clear on what am I supposed to be doing as your employer, and as the company, and what are you supposed to be doing? And as long as we're both doing what we're supposed to be doing, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah. Always a tough one, though.
I'm curious for our listeners, as Anna and I start to do more episodes where it's the two of us having a conversation, we really welcome you sending in questions that we're happy to answer on the podcast, or a topic to speak about. And you can send those directly to me at kendall@wellnesscentercreators.com, and we will answer your questions on the podcast.
Or at least chew on them.
Well, sure. We will consider answering your questions. Let me see. That's a lesson. I need to be more clear. I can't promise. Can't
No,
make
we can't
promises.
promise.
Yeah.
Well, it's been
This
delightful, Kendall.
just lovely. It's an important topic, and it's a hard one to talk about. I think, clinic owners and leaders, this one's a hard one because you can feel really isolated in that of like, well, am I doing something wrong? Should I just be a punching bag? No, you shouldn't be a punching bag, but you also have to make sure you are holding up your end and getting clear on all of your systems and policies before you can ask someone to abide by those policies.
100%.
All right, Anna, have a great day. Until next time.
Thank you, Kendall. Lovely chatting.
Thanks for joining us on the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. We hope you found the episode insightful and helpful.
Remember to visit our website at wellnesscentercreators.com for show notes, additional episodes, and more resources to help you on your wellness center journey.
We always love hearing from our listeners. Your feedback, questions, and experiences are invaluable to us and help us shape the content we create.
So please don't hesitate to reach out to us anytime. You can contact us through our website or via social media. We're here to support you.
If you know someone who could benefit from the information and insights shared on this podcast, please take a moment to share the show with them. Together, we can help more health and wellness professionals create thriving practices.
Thank you again for tuning in and for being part of a Wellness Center Creators community. Your dedication to providing exceptional patient care is truly inspiring.
We can't wait to share more with you in the next episode. Until then, keep creating, innovating, and making a difference in your patients' lives. See you next time on the Wellness Center Creators Podcast.